So in this segment, we're going to be talking about Northern councils spending millions to get levelling up grants. So councils in the north of England have spent millions of pounds preparing bids for government levelling up grants. So that's in order to get the funding. I guess you have to speculate to accumulate, but this is effectively councils gambling money to get the extra funds. We know the Tories use dodgy algorithms that favour their own constituencies. Sunak admitted that during the leadership contest, how they took money from poorer areas and gave them to wealthier Tory voting areas. Freedom of information requests by BBC News revealed 22 councils in the North East and Cumbria spent a total of more than £4.6 million. That's a lot of money and resources spent. What happens if they don't get that money, the levelling up funds? They would have wasted tons in local funds. That's, local money is not a lot, especially given the Tory cuts. The time-consuming process of bidding for competitive funds was criticised by academics last week. The government said the area's £37 per person levelling up fund was the second highest for any English region. I guess the first question is which region is getting the most money per capita? I don't know the answer to that. The government saying, we are making progress across the North East, a spokesperson from the Department for Levelling Up, Housing and Community said. Teesside Freeport has created, quote, thousands of highly skilled jobs, and the Towns Fund has supported refurbishing derelict properties in Hartlepool and new skills facilities in Blyth. That Teesside port is an environmental disaster, and also the fact that the EU structural funds went to a lot of these places. BBC News asked councils how much they'd spent in bidding for the Levelling Up funds, the Town Fund and the Future High Street Fund, all of which are associated with the government's Levelling Up agenda. The figure came to £4.65 million, while the authorities secured funding of £309 million as a result of the bids. Some councils said most or all of the cost had been met by capacity funding from central government. I'm not 100% sure what that means. Professor Joyce Liddell from Northumbria Business School said authorities had to get things together really quickly. A lot lacked the capacity to do so, and many had used consultants to help draw up their plans. Those consultants would have been paid a lot, no doubt. Bid writing is pretty lucrative. They can charge a lot of money in order to write these bids, and we don't know what the councils did if they failed. Was there an appeals process or what? There was also not a great deal of transparency, and the councils did not know why they had not been successful. Unless the Tories make their algorithms public, councils and the public will never understand why they were or not successful, which will make it hard to justify to the public why councils spent all this money. Of those who were awarded the money, many did not have the capacity or skills base to deliver on the capital projects, with many only using 3 to 6% of the funds so far, she added. So they don't know how to actually use the money properly, it seems like. Hartlepool received £25 million from the Towns Fund, after the council spent more than £200,000 on bids and the Levelling Up Fund. Some of the money had gone towards training facilities run by Hartlepool College of Further Education, and that's good. That genuinely is good. Spending that money in local colleges really will help skill up people. Professor Darren Hankley said the bids take time, with an example, the board working on the town deal for 3 years. They're competitive. There's no guarantee you'll get that money, he said. You have to jump through a lot of hoops. And I wonder, was it easier just to stick with the EU structural funds, as in, did the EU have a better system for it? Probably did. It's just the time and effort to get that money, where over the last decade that investment had been shortcoming, which that's the Tories' fault. The government's Levelling Up white paper in February referred to the complexity in funding landscape and promised to set out a streamlined process this year. I mean, they've been talking about this Levelling Up thing for years, right? And then they make a really bureaucratic system. And then they're like, oh yeah, we'll make a better system, a streamlined one. It's like, why didn't you do that from the start, you mugs? Like, honestly, I don't get it. The farming one's been a joke. This one's a joke. Absolute madness, honestly. Councils are gambling money here in order to get this Levelling Up funds, and we don't even know how it works. We don't know how the money works, who gets what and why. I've seen one in my town centre, the Levelling Up thing, but it's also got the EU structural funds badge on it as well, so I don't know how much of it's coming from EU structural funds, or former EU structural funds, how much of it's coming from the quote Towns Fund or the High Street Regeneration Fund or whatever it's called. It's wild. They're being very opaque about this, and that scares me, because this is taxpayers' money at the end of the day being used. And my Tory MP, it's not really a swing seat anymore. It kind of is. I guess it's not really a safe seat, I would say. But yeah, maybe that's why they're spending the money in Northampton. Maybe because it's not just the councils need the money, but they want to keep their Tory boy in place. I don't know. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.